Kevin, thanks for joining us on the Sales Confidence Podcast today.
James, I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I need to give you a hug, but we're not allowed to move from these mics.
We will absolutely be hugging later, Kevin.
Promise?
Absolutely. Really excited about today. Kevin's been a long-time supporter of Sales Confidence as a brand, and we're great supporters, advocates, and now users of Refract.
Users, indeed.
So it's really exciting to have you. Just a brief introduction, a little bit about a background on Kevin. So this is Kevin Beales. Kevin is the founder of Refract. He's a two-time founder, originally having founded a company called The Test Factory in 2007. Prior to this, Kevin gained experience as a senior VP of a number of fast-growing SaaS companies in the UK. Refract unlocks the black box of revenue intelligence. Refract analyzes your calls, your demos, and your meetings to level jump rep performance, accelerating your revenue growth and driving successful outcomes. And he's been in a position that Refract is now providing business intelligence that is hidden away in your sales conversations. Really looking forward to learn more about the power of Refract. But let's learn a bit more about you, Kevin. Oh, I almost forgot. We've got a special treat for our listeners coming on later on. Is that right?
We have indeed, yeah. I'm probably going to get in trouble for my marketing team, but we have a secret offer that we're going to make to everyone on this podcast. So, yeah, well worth hanging around for that.
Absolutely. So this is one where you should stay locked in for the course, because Refract, this is Kevin, the founder, has got a fantastic offer that we're going to share with you, with listeners. But before we do that, let's learn a bit more about your story and how you got here today. So I guess the question I'd like to open up with is, what are you most excited about today, Kevin?
What am I most excited about today? Some of the product stuff that we're doing at the moment at Refract. I'm impatient. That's the only problem. So as soon as we start talking about all the exciting stuff and we start working on exciting stuff, I kind of want it there now, want it there tomorrow, want to start telling everyone about it. So yeah, I often get in trouble for starting to talk about the things that are coming around the corner. But yeah, some of the stuff that we're doing on the product at the moment has got me really excited. It kind of feels like we're at the start of a journey of into revenue intelligence, into analysing calls, demos, and meetings, and finding out how we can accelerate performance. So that I'm really excited about that stuff at the moment.
That's fantastic. I'm not surprised. I think kind of call intelligence is really coming of age right now. I think this is the time, this is the moment, particularly in the UK and Europe, where the need for sales leaders and individual contributors to understand and learn from their calls is testament to differentiating performance.
Yeah, it's definitely still an early adopter category. Most of the companies using revenue intelligence as a category, are SaaS tech companies today, yep, who have really bought into the science of sales, the data of sales, that it's not just gift of the gab, that you can create playbooks, and we're still at the start of a whole revolution there. You start to go outside of SaaS and tech, and it is like showing cavemen fire. It's still an early stage market, I'd say.
Exciting. So a little bit about you in terms of understanding you as a founder. What's the first thing you typically think of when you wake up in the morning?
So, yeah, I want to say I look into my wife's loving eyes and, can't wait to see the kids.
She's listening, guys.
Yeah, probably like everyone else, you're wondering what's in your inbox and how much you got on that day. Like any founder, I do struggle to turn off, and it is hard for Refract and for everyone, their business not to be the last thing you think of at night and the first thing you think of first thing in the morning. I love what I do. I genuinely love what I do. So I do wake up with excitement about what the day ahead is going to bring. But again, like any founder, you sometimes struggle a little bit with that work home balance with running a business where you want to be home and present for your family, at the same time excited about building a business. So I would be lying if I said that the first thing I thought of first thing in the morning wasn't getting to work, getting into the office and and getting started. Like
exciting. Well, actually, for those that aren't aware, and I think this is an interesting point, you're actually a northern-based company. What does it mean to you getting into work? How do you get to work? Where are you based?
So we're based up in Newcastle. You
Great.
can see from the accent. That's I'm still learning Geordie, but I'm just about getting the hang of it. One of the great things about Newcastle, I mean, as you know, I spend a lot of time down in London, spend a lot of time with you and many other friends and partners down here. One of the great things about the Northeast is you don't have to jump on a packed tube. People talk to each other as well, and things like that. I roll out of bed and it's 15 miles into work, and it'll take me half an hour. It's that's one of the great things about the Northeast.
Amazing. Yeah, I have to say, as you know, I've got family in the Northeast. I've spent time there. That's probably for another podcast show. But, I genuinely do feel like there's a warm welcoming up there with people. There's a real sense of community. And generally, I think the air is fresher in Newcastle.
The air is definitely fresher, but it's cliched, but people are friendlier. People have got a little bit more time, and they joke about the Geordies get down to London, jump on the tube, and start talking to everyone. It's not far from the truth.
Yeah, excellent, brilliant. Where do you get your motivation and inspiration from to drive multiple businesses now? This is your second company that you're building. You're expanding rapidly. You're looking at international markets. Where does the motivation and inspiration come from? I always wanted to do something for myself. Even when I was a kid, I would have like little, side projects, hustles, making a little bit of money. Yeah. I was always going to work for myself. I was going to employ someone who was really clever, pay them lots of money, and start my own business. And that's pretty much how it worked out. But I don't talk about this often, but I got sacked from my first job for gross insubordination.
Wow. I got expelled from not expelled. I got suspended, should I say, from sixth form for one of my side hustles that was causing a little bit of friction with people spending too much of their lunch money on my They talk about people that often found a business because they're unemployable, and I wouldn't necessarily like to go quite as far. I had a nice career, worked at Adidas for a few years, kind of cut my teeth there. But I always wanted to do something for myself. That was always part of the motivation. I'm not sure why. I think just wanting to push the boundaries, not liking rules and to conform, if you like, and being master of your own destiny, those kind of things. So I think that's where my motivation, that motivation comes from, and being master of your own destiny.
Yeah, I can totally relate. I've got some similar experiences, but there is definitely an aspect of kind of pushing the boundary and breaking rules and being your own leader, and sense of self. And so moving it into kind of the profession that we both represent and we're both very passionate about, and yourselves, Refract, particularly making huge innovations in this space. What was your very first experience of being in sales, or the sales as an experience to you as a buyer?
Going back to those times when I was really young, that was always selling, whether and it was all legal, by the way. Just want to point that out before it gets me into too much trouble. But that was always selling. One of the things that I feel has most helped me as a salesperson is when I kind of started off in sales and then went to I was at Adidas and worked in marketing, and I was a buyer. I bought things at Adidas, and I saw people sell to me, and I saw what it was like, people selling to me, and that empathy of being a buyer for a few years has definitely helped me in my sales career, of like being able to know what it's like sitting on both sides of the table, know what it's like when your phone's ringing all the time and people are trying to sell you stuff, and have that experience from both sides. I then kind of, went into, I'd moved up to the Northeast, met my Geordie lass, and sales gave me the best opportunity of accelerating my career path at that time. And that was really my first experiences of sales. And as you do, bang the drum as hard as we can for the sales profession on an ongoing basis now.
Absolutely. If you think about sales professionals that you've hired in your career, the type of salespeople that you've attracted to Refract, what stands out about those that are more successful than others?
For me and for us, coachability. Coachability is the number one thing. And again, when we're talking about SaaS companies and creating playbooks, you create the playbook. You know how to do it. You know what success looks like for successfully selling your product or service to good fit prospects and partners. The key to success comes down to coachability and having people that are coachable, that will be able to take that on, that will be able to implement things, that will be able to learn fast, that will be able to create their own learnings from their own experience. So there's a massive part of built into our recruitment process that is about how do we measure coachability. So yeah, I would say that is one big thing, and then the other thing is no egos, and sometimes that's hard because there's a lot of very successful salespeople that have egos and maybe feel that they have the right with their success to create egos, but particularly in a fairly early stage business when you're creating a culture, that just didn't work. In truth, in my last business, I maybe didn't get that quite as right as I feel that we hopefully have at Refract.
Amazing. Moving on a little bit to Refract as a company, as an organization, what is some of the fundamental DNA that makes Refract a great place to work?
So like so many startup businesses, we put a lot into culture, the kind of first of all, that we talk a lot about Refract people when we hire. That is this person a Refract person? Get people involved in that process, and see if we feel culturally there is a fit, and know that we're not taking on those egos or those personalities that aren't going to fit. The second is being all in it together. So we're very transparent as a business. People know exactly where we are, what we're trying to achieve. Really transparent in terms of making sure we share that with the team. They know what we're trying to achieve. They know where we are, what's going well, what's exciting us, what's keeping us up at night. I think having that transparency as well is key to us, and to any business at this kind of stage really needs that in order to create that culture and togetherness.
I love that. For the listeners that aren't maybe aware of Refract, in terms of the value proposition, the offering, what does Refract do, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, you did a good job. So, if it doesn't work out at Sales Confidence and you're looking for an SDR role at any time,
cheers, Kevin.
We'll make sure you get past the ego test, and
I might struggle with, but I'll definitely keep it in mind.
But yeah, so we help sales leaders improve their sales conversations and the outcomes of those conversations. So, As you mentioned before, we're analysing calls, demos, meetings. We're surfacing key moments that happen in those conversations. Helping to both coach and share those, to be able to provide insight in what do top performers do differently, what are the things that happen in your organisation that lead to successful outcomes by literally analysing every call, demo and meeting that happens across your team.
So this technology now, while I've been early on understanding the innovations that you were doing for some years, and we both worked very closely in terms of elevating the sales profession. It's only since we've started to scale a business, for me as a founder now, we've got 5 people in the sales team. We'll probably be 2-3 times the size of that by the end of the calendar year. One of the significant contributors to our speed and growth has been the ability for onboarding reps to analyze their calls. So it's powerful stuff. Now, we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast interview that there was an offer that we were going to share specifically for those that are listening to this Sales Confidence podcast. So, Kevin, should we give a rundown? This is a perfect opportunity.
Okay. So we're going to share both for whether you're a sales leader or whether you're a sales rep. We've got something that that we'd like to share. So first of all, let's start with sales leaders.
Yeah.
So two things that we'll do for sales leaders. Don't tell anyone else about this. We don't normally do this. This is, as I say, this will get me into trouble. We'll first of all provide 60 days of Refract, completely free, completely without obligation, no strings at all, so that we can capture all your calls, analyze those calls, surface what happens, look at what your top performers are doing differently, look at what's leading to successful outcomes, give you the ability to be able to find and coach key moments of those calls and conversations.
Amazing.
But in addition to that, we'll get involved and help maybe for us and our experts to coach a few of your calls and conversations, perhaps give another perspective, show some of the coaching templates that we would use to be able to accelerate and level jump performance. So for any sales leaders out there, just message me on LinkedIn with nothing else other than the words sales confidence, and you're in. We'll set this up for you. I'll get in touch and we'll set this up for you.
So just to reiterate, Kevin Beales, LinkedIn, the word sales confidence, and they will get access to Refract, no obligation for 60 days for themselves and their sales team?
For themselves and their sales team. So all of their sales team.
Wow. This is significant value. I highly recommend you do this right now. Pause the podcast, go onto LinkedIn, Kevin Beales. How's Beales spelt?
Beales.
There you go. Put that into LinkedIn, message with sales confidence. This guy is going to change your life in the next 60 days. So that's sales leaders. What's the offer for sales professionals, Kevin?
So for sales reps, we'd love to coach a couple of your calls and conversations and give you some expert coaching and feedback, highlight again some of those key moments and give some ideas and suggestions of perhaps what might be sometimes very small tweaks, just wording things slightly differently, perhaps just the active listening, the additional questions that make the difference between winning deals and not. So if you record calls or demos at the moment, again, just message me exactly the same, sales confidence on LinkedIn, and you can send those calls and demos through and we'll coach them. If you don't record those calls at the moment, again, just get in touch, let us know that you don't. We can set you up actually to record some of those calls and conversations, and you can choose which ones you want to share with us.
Well, that's really kind of you, Kevin. I think this is amazing value. It's actually a first that we've done on the podcast to put so much value back to this audience. I highly recommend you get over to LinkedIn now, you put in Kevin Beales, you message him with sales confidence, you get access to this technology. Thank you for sharing that. So, Refract, what's your ambition for Refract as a company?
So, I mentioned before, it feels like, we're just at the start of the journey, and it's the product stuff that's really, really exciting us. And, some of the opportunities, particularly using AI to be able to surface even more value. It just feels like really early days for us. As you say, we're based up in Newcastle. We're just over 30 people today. Feels like we're at the start of our journey, mainly working with SaaS and tech companies, but a number of others. Where do we want to get to? I'd love to be able to take Refract more internationally. About 40% of our revenue comes from the US today. I'd love to explore opening up offices in other countries as we start to grow. Where that journey takes us, I really wouldn't like to say, but it definitely feels like we're at the start.
Amazing. Well, this is exciting, and I'm glad that we can continue to support each other, particularly on the international expansion in 2020. Really exciting to hear the ambition of Refract, Kevin. Bringing it a bit closer to the experience as a sales professional or a sales leader, is there a book that you've read in your career that's had the most impact on you?
So I spent a lot of time reading books, listening to podcasts. Like most people, I buy more books than I read. There's plenty left unread there. A couple of the ones that are my favourites at the moment. Yako from Winning by Design, his SaaS sales blueprint. That's a top drawer book. Recommend that to anyone.
Just on Yako, he is phenomenal. A small plug here, but our annual conference this year, it's the third year we're doing it, SaaS Growth, which you're also an all-in sponsor. Yako is actually going to be keynoting this year for the third year. So 750 sales and revenue leaders at Old Billingsgate on the 8th of July. Highly recommend Yako Winning by Design, and look forward to seeing you at the event.
And yeah, although this wasn't meant as a plug, it is an amazing event, and Yako is an amazing presenter as well as writer. So I will double down on your endorsement there. Another is a guy called Dave Curlin, who wrote a book called Baseline Selling. It's been around a while now. Dave is another of those people where I find myself sometimes talking in his voice. Like, what would Dave say? Like, we're lucky enough that Dave's one of our clients now, but that book is one that has been around for a while, but certainly stays with me. Yeah.
Oh, amazing! Great to hear. Where do you see the future of sales as a profession? Where do you think this is going?
I think the thing that we're really fortunate in, for I know a lot of your audience work in SaaS and tech companies, is that we get exposure to a lot of companies that aren't in SaaS and tech, and there is a big gap. You know, there's a big difference between how sales is done at sales and tech, SaaS and tech companies, and that, you know, that again, going back to that playbook, that data of sales. And I think it is easy, especially for people that have joined a SaaS company in sales, not to appreciate that you know, that actually they are at the cutting edge. And the forward-thinking side of sales, and there's a whole industry behind us that is still catching up, and is still getting to that kind of the philosophy that you would expect to find in a modern day SaaS business. It is, even again in SaaS and tech businesses, it's a more competitive world. Buyers do more of their research online. People want to do more of their the buying experience without necessarily engaging in a conversation at the start of that. So the ability to stand out and differentiate is becoming stronger than ever. Yeah. We're still in an era where I'm sure every single one of you, the people listening to this, are bombarded and wake up to very unpersonalized outreach that, you know, that isn't researched, isn't relevant, spray and pray, and there is still a big part of that in unfortunately in sales. We're getting more personalized. AI will help. It's not going to replace sales. In fact, it's going to mean the human side, the human skills become even more important. And so growing those human skills and being able to develop those skills to be able to then utilize the AI and the tech and the tools that underline selling are undoubtedly what are going to differentiate salespeople going forward.
And I think, you know, it's a very valid point. Even with all of this fantastic technology like Refract, I mean, you're probably better aligned to the future than most. We need to get back to the fundamentals. It's driving conversations. That is the game we're in. Have more phone conversations, have more conversations in meeting, and do more business.
Analyze them, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely, but take that feedback and learn.
Of course,
no, but it's just like what else is all these tools trying to do?
So now you're putting me on my high horse now. So I think one of the real challenges for a lot of sales leaders is that there are lots of things that are measured, and lots of KPIs, and lots of dashboards, and lots of data that comes out of your CRM system. But it's all the stuff that's easy to be able to measure. So at a conversation level, you know, how many people we're speaking to, when are we speaking to them, blah blah blah, you know, etc. etc. Actually measuring the quality of those conversations, measuring what happens in those conversations. Conversations win and lose revenue, right? period. You can have great sales processes. You can have an amazing product. You can reach out to amazing prospects with compelling offerings. You win and lose revenue in the sales conversations that you have, but it is very hard to measure those. It's very hard, obviously, to listen to them on at scale, and without that being a plug for Refract, I think one of the challenges is that we fall into this trap of measuring what's easy to measure, not necessarily measuring what's most impactful to measure.
I think that's really valid. I mean, I actually wasn't going to go off piece, but now you've opened up.
How I've taken you off piece.
Well, I'm just, I'm getting wound up today, for example, okay? We've got these really dedicated, highly driven sales professionals in our team, motivated to build this company, but there's almost like a disease around the phone. It's like we had like a bunch of inbound leads earlier, which I myself could have picked up the phone, but I have a team to do that. I check in 5 minutes, I check in 10 minutes, I check in 15 minutes later, they've still not picked up the phone. Then I asked why. Oh, we need to prepare a new script. It's a different type of conversation. It's 101. Pick up the phone. And so I actually think there's a particularly in tech right now and SaaS, it's endemic. There is a problem on sales floors. I don't think they reflect actually what needs to be happening. There is so much kind of what I used to call like paper pushing, emailing, designing workflows on your prospecting tools and LinkedIning, and not actually having a phone call. And it's winding me up, Kevin.
And well, you're preaching to the choir here. It is about those conversations, and I mean, we do live in a multi-channel world. It's not just about not just about the phone, and we're big advocates of the power that we create a lot of our opportunities from cold outreach, which includes cold calling, and I know we've been on your stage banging the drum for cold calling before.
Yeah.
You've also publicised and promoted the video that my lad did, Joe. So just very quickly to tell the audience the story. My lad, he was 10. It's my middle lad. Came into work as sons often do with their fathers. Said, am I going to earn some money today? I said, well, if you want to earn some money, you're going to have to do some work. Well, how do I earn the most money? I said, well, sales. Well, what do I have to do in sales? I said, well, cold calling. You have to pick up the phone and cold call. And literally, it wasn't planned at all, but we did decide to video it. We coached him. He started picking up the phone. He made some calls. He booked 13 meetings. Well, who knew? No one can say no to a 10-year-old. But the real power of that video was that there was no fear. He would pick up the phone, and he was just like picking up the phone and speaking to someone. It was just a conversation. When do we learn to fear picking up the phone and fear speaking to someone else in just a conversation?
Yeah, no, I agree. And by the way, it's a great video. I highly recommend you go check that video out on YouTube. Confidence. When you think about your own kind of experience, right, as a founder, multiple companies that you're working to building sales teams, how do you kind of get the best from yourself and find confidence to do what you do?
In truth, you don't always.
Yeah.
I think we all read a lot of success porn, and this is an amazing company, and it's we've grown exponentially over this, and all making it sound very easy. I'm only doing this for the second time, but I can categorically say from my perspective, it's not. It doesn't all go perfectly all of the time. It's hard. It's it's a roller coaster. There's plenty of ups and downs, and there's plenty of times where you're full of confidence. There's also plenty of times where it feels like the world's collapsing or it's not going in the right direction, and you need other people to give you that confidence. I wouldn't say I'm a naturally overly confident person, and so I do lean on some of those. I've made sure that I've got those coaches and mentors myself, that when I need confidence from someone from the outside, I know that I can go and get it. I know that I personally need that. I think at the same time, though, you know, part of the makeup of a founder, and maybe even a lot of us in sales, is the glass half full, and that, you know, that you always believe in the, you know, the excitement, what you're trying to achieve, and you do generate this confidence that kind of grows across your team as well. But yeah, I would make sure I add that sometimes comes from outside influences, because it's not always there, right?
But that's a great piece of advice there, though, to look to others to give you that confidence boost.
So I'll jump in there, James. For anyone listening to this who hasn't got a coach or mentor outside of your organisation, you can have an amazing boss, and that's brilliant. You get all the coaching and support that you would want from them. Get yourself a coach or a mentor, and you know, the great thing is people will do it, and will do it for nothing. People want to be a coach. People want to help. People that have been successful want to help and will happily be a coach or mentor. And having someone that you can pick up the phone to, go for a coffee with, is the biggest single tip to accelerate your career that I think I could give anyone.
I think that's great advice. In fact, that's in a large part what's inspired the launch of the Sales Confidence membership. You know, for the last 3 years, we've been identifying the top 50 sales leaders in the UK. Your very own Richard has featured as one of those fantastic leaders in the UK. We've started to replicate this around cities around the world, and we've identified, you know, what are the things that make an exceptional sales leader. And what they've said is they also want to be able to give back to the community. So as part of the Sales Confidence membership, they've got access to coaching and mentors, and these people have signed a commitment to actually deliver that value. So we are looking to professionalize coaching and in that aspect of mentorship. And I just think, even if you don't have the opportunity to join something like the Sales Confidence membership, just get on LinkedIn, identify people that are a few years ahead of you that you can learn from, and do exactly what Kevin's suggested. Have a coffee, get some advice, reach out to them.
And again, I'm not doing your plug for you, James, but if you work for someone and you go to your boss and say, can I have this bit of money to get my Sales Confident membership because I want to accelerate my career and be the best I can be, and they say no, I'd have a think about where you're working.
I would agree. So, okay, so it hasn't been easy, right? There's been some difficult times. Is there something you're comfortable sharing, you know, maybe when something was particularly difficult, maybe some hardship that you've had to overcome? You know, you don't have to go so deep, but just maybe some time where you're just like, wow, it really wasn't going to plan and I had to make these choices. I
mean, it literally is relentless. It is all the time.
Yeah.
You know, the ups and downs, and you know this yourself.
I do.
And you have to do that without necessarily the outside world riding along with you. You know, I'm happy to talk about that, where again, home and work are, can be very conflicting forces. My wife didn't want me to start a business. She didn't want the uncertainty. She certainly didn't want to ride a roller coaster, which I kind of forced upon her and us as a family. When I started my first business, she cried. She begged me not to do it. And now she's become comfortable, you know, but I say comfortable. She still doesn't want to ride the roller coaster, and I totally respect that, because it is a roller coaster, and it's not, you know, and it's not for everyone. So even when great things happen at work, I don't go home and talk about them most of the time, because she knows that if I'm talking about the great things, she knows that I'm just then not talking about the other things, and she's only hearing half a story. So, yeah, she's made a really conscious decision that it's great that I want to do this, and she supports me in doing it, which I'm really grateful for. But she doesn't want to ride that roller coaster. And as I say, the ups and downs, they're daily. They're daily. They're weekly. They're relentless. You know, the world can go from a beautiful place to a very tough place very, very easily as a founder.
Yeah, and I think there's commonalities there with actually probably uniquely in function with sales leaders and founders from that up and down perspective, because you're winning and losing every single day. And I think that you know, how you manage the relationship at home is absolutely not an easy thing to do, and it's super valid that while especially when there's children involved, while it's super exciting, this new product feature for you, frankly, it makes no impact if the bins are going to get taken out on a Friday if the dishwashing is being done, right? So it's understandable, and I know you manage that very well. So thank you for sharing. So we're just coming kind of near to the end of the podcast. There's been some hugely valuable insights that you've been sharing about your own experience, how you've unlocked confidence for yourself, how you've developed a fantastic service with Refract. I'm just wondering about your own kind of health and well-being. How do you, with all these ups and downs, how do you ensure that what you do as a founder, building this company internationally, expanding, how do you kind of manage your well-being for yourself?
In truth, again, being frank, not as well as I should. Just finding that time, and it's an excuse, right? It's it's an excuse, but you find yourself busy at work, you find yourself busy at home, you find it difficult to to make that make that time. Yeah, I've got three young boys. I come home, I want to spend time with them. I'm then too tired to go to the gym, and so not as much as I should is the honest answer. The thing that really does work for me is I know I never used to know this about myself, but I know I do sometimes need just time alone. I never thought I never particularly enjoyed or wanted time by myself, but I've learned to respect that sometimes I just need a little bit of time away from everything, away from everyone. It could be it could be an evening, it could be a day. And that really refreshes my mind and my batteries. But I've still got work to do there.
Amazing. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear your experience. Is there any final thoughts or anything you want to impart on our listeners before we wrap up today?
Well, I would say we're all really lucky having the sales confidence community, and for anyone that's listening that hasn't got involved in events that cost peanuts to attend, to the SaaS growth event, the membership that you're launching, to get involved, because it's a great community, and just being part of that community has a massive value. Other than that, I just want to thank you for inviting me along. Are we allowed to share? We keep bumping into each other everywhere, literally everywhere.
Yeah, that's why not. I mean, so we Kevin and I have worked together for a few years now, and he's been a huge supporter of Sales Confidence. So thank you for all your advocacy and support, because we're here now because of that, and you're definitely someone that moves early on the market. But yeah, we randomly have found ourselves in interesting locations around the world, totally serendipitous. Once in Exeter,
of all places,
yeah, which I hadn't been to ever, and you were there the same day. And in fact, we've now got a shared partner in air marketing. In fact, we had Owen Richards, the owner, on the podcast recently, so that's worthwhile checking that out. And then recently, where did we find ourselves?
So, having just met in Exeter, I saw your message on Facebook. I'm in Atlanta. I'm sat at a bar in Atlanta. Message you and say, do you fancy a beer? Of course, you thought I was winding you up.
I did.
Any reasonable person would think that one of us is stalking each other. But yeah, we just happened to be there at the same time.
Yeah, it's been great. And, I'm super excited about 2020. I'm looking forward to all the great value that Refract's bringing to the market. I think, just to reiterate before we close off, get onto LinkedIn, find Kevin Beales, send him a message about Sales Confidence and get access. It's a no-brainer, and I think it's a really incredible offer that you've put together. It's been wonderful to have you on the show, Kevin, and look forward to more opportunities for the future.
I look forward to that hug as soon as we turn the camera off.
Yeah, we're getting on it now. We're going to get some photos. Cheers, Kevin.
Cheers.